Information discussed in this podcast may be sensitive in nature to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Boca Raton, Florida is exceptionally hot and humid in August. In August 1997, that was no exception. This South Florida town is renowned for its suburban atmosphere and its proximity to the Atlantic Ocean. It's a desirable place to live, and it attracts families from all walks of life, but is mostly known for an upscale and luxurious lifestyle. Bobby Grossman lived in Boca Raton with his mother and brother in 1997. In August, Bobby was getting ready to start his senior year of high school and was excitedly planning and preparing for his future, which to him included college right after graduation. On the night of August 3rd, 1997, Bobby and his mother had an argument. While details aren't exactly known, it seemed that she wanted Bobby to get to bed at a decent hour because he had work the next day. The argument escalated, and Bobby stormed out of the house wearing only a blue pair of shorts. His mother thought he probably just needed time to cool off, and perhaps he went to a friend's house. But after 2 days of trying to track down her son, and knowing that he never showed up for work in those days, she made the decision to call the authorities and report her son as missing. Bobby had walked out of the house into the night and was never seen again. Where is Bobby Grossman? Hello, and welcome to the Where Are They podcast and another unsolved missing persons story, a cold case spotlight taking us back to 1997 and over to Boca Raton, Florida. Bobby's story is truly a parent's worst nightmare. Your teenage son walks out of your home and is never seen again. And to make matters worse, he stormed out after an argument. The last conversation this mother had with her son was a negative one, likely held in anger and/or frustration. But no one expects their child to just vanish and not come home, especially a child like Bobby. Robert Grossman was born on November 12, 1978, and he quickly began going by the nickname Bobby. In August of 1997, Bobby was living in Boca Raton, Florida with his mother and brother. His father lived in New York. There isn't a lot about Bobby's case that is publicly known, and whether that is because it was 1997 when he vanished, well before Facebook and social media as we know it today anyway, or because his family maybe wanted it a little bit quieter, I can only provide you with the facts that we do know. That summer, the summer of 1997, Bobby was working as a camp counselor at St. Andrew's School. This is also where his mother worked, which I do think is an important detail to remember as we get into the story of his disappearance. He was preparing to enter his senior year that August, and he would be attending Spanish River High School. Bobby's plan was to attend college after graduation. Overall, Bobby was said to be a good kid. He never got into too much trouble. He wasn't interested in alcohol or drugs, at least as far as anyone knew. And his family life seemed pretty stable. His only flaw, which is usually brought up in discussions of Bobby, is his quick temper, which was mostly shown behind closed doors at his home. And that is what happened on the evening of August 3rd, 1997. Bobby and his mother had an argument, which is believed to have been about Bobby going to bed at a decent hour because he had work the next day. Now, as you come across Bobby's case and case discussions online, There was a lot of talk about this. Bobby was 18. Getting to work was his responsibility, and many questioned his mother arguing with her adult son about going to bed on time. Bobby was at home that night. He hadn't been planning on going out, and many people don't understand why an argument like this would even take place. And perhaps their questions are valid. But let's consider this. We don't know Bobby's relationship with his mother. This might have been a normal pattern of behavior. Perhaps Bobby, at age 18, was still in need of a little parenting to keep him on track. He was still in high school. And I do think that is perfectly logical if this is the case. But also, let's consider the fact that Bobby worked at the same place as his mother. Perhaps she felt even more responsible to make sure that he got to work. We don't know the history of Bobby's work attendance or performance. Since he worked at the same place as his mother, she might have been more concerned than if he had worked somewhere else. In any event, the two argued that night, and Bobby's temper flared up. He stormed out of the house, taking nothing with him and wearing only his blue shorts, and walked off into the night. This was around 9:30 p.m. His mother's first thought was that he was going to go over to a friend's house and cool down a bit. Hopefully he'd be back later. But he wasn't. In fact, Bobby didn't show up for work the next day, and his mother and brother couldn't track him down anywhere. They reached out to his girlfriend and all the friends that they could think of, with no luck. No one had seen Bobby. No one had even heard from Bobby. Finally, on Tuesday, August 5th, 1997, Bobby was reported as missing. This was a tricky one. Bobby was 18. He was last seen walking out of his house, according to his mother, and no one had reported seeing him. By 9:30 p.m. that night, it was pretty dark, and it was a Sunday night. Most people were likely in their homes, getting ready for work the next day, kind of doing their normal evening routine. Not one person had come forward to say that they had seen Bobby. So the search for Bobby was difficult. No one knew where to search. The family drove up and down the streets and looked all over Boca, but found no sign of Bobby. There were 0 clues for investigators to follow, at least until 3 full months after Bobby vanished. His girlfriend reported receiving a phone call from an unknown person who told her that Bobby had been killed and that his body could be found in the Boca Canal near Southwest 18th Street. She reported this call to authorities, and they converged on the area to search. They took helicopters out so they could search overhead, maybe cover some more ground. They checked the area on foot. Some reports indicate that they sent a few divers into the water, but nothing was found. Nothing at all to make them believe that Bobby was there or had been there. Most people believe this was likely a prank call, which sadly is something that is done in many missing person cases for some reason. I'm not sure why so many people get a kick out of that or find any entertaining value in that, but it's something that I've seen in so many missing person cases. Others have questioned why this caller would call Bobby's girlfriend instead of calling his mother. Regardless, this lead, even though it was thoroughly investigated, according to law enforcement, would take investigators nowhere, and Bobby remained missing. Bobby Grossman missed his senior year of high school. He missed his senior prom. He missed graduation that year. He missed college. And he has missed every single family milestone since 1997. His family believes that he had to have met with foul play out there. But even those odds are pretty extraordinary. What are the chances that Bobby left home at night and happened to run into a predator or foul play while out of the house? Could the timing have been such that, unfortunately, that happened? Or perhaps Bobby's emotions got the best of him and he intentionally harmed himself somewhere, which is a theory that others have brought up as well. But if that's the case, why hasn't he been found? How has he stayed hidden? The interesting part of Boca Raton in this case is the proximity to both the Everglades to the west and the Atlantic Ocean to the east. A half-hour drive could easily take Bobby to each place. But Bobby didn't have a car, or even his driver's license for that matter. So could he have possibly hitched a ride? Could he have hitched a ride out of town and left the area completely, which is why he was never seen? Or had he maybe hitched a ride with someone nefarious? There are also dozens of ponds within a couple-mile radius of Affirmed Lane, which is where Bobby lived. But seeing as 27 years have now gone by, what is the likelihood if Bobby had ended up in one of those ponds, either by accident or on purpose? What are the chances that he would not have been found yet? Or had Bobby had enough of his life in Boca Raton and decided to run away and start a new life somewhere else? Somewhere where he has remained undetected and unfound for 27 years. It's always hard to say, as we don't know everything going through a person's mind when they disappear. Were there things going on in Bobby's life that nobody was aware of? What do you think happened to Bobby Grossman? Bobby is described as a Caucasian male standing 5'8" tall and weighing around 135 pounds when he was last seen in August of 1997. Bobby was 18 years old. He wore his brown hair short and he had blue eyes. When he left his home that night, he was wearing only a blue pair of shorts. Bobby has a large birthmark on the back of his left shoulder. His birth name is Robert, but he usually always went by Bobby. Anyone with any information on the whereabouts of Bobby Grossman is asked to contact the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office at 1-800-458-8477, or you can always contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-458-TIPS, where you can choose to remain anonymous. We've covered a few cases of teens just walking out of their homes and never being seen again. The case of Jarrett Brooks, Asia Wilbon, Cassie Compton, and James Yablonsky are just a few examples. What happened to these teenagers, these children? Cold cases are being solved more and more every day with advances in technology and awareness. Maybe Bobby's story can be one of those solved cold cases very soon. Let's keep working together as a community and bring these missing loved ones home where they belong. Thank you again for listening to Bobby's story today. Truly a baffling mystery out of South Florida. And again, we don't know much about his case. There isn't much I can share with you about his story, but Bobby is still missing. There are people still looking for Bobby. And if something nefarious did happen to Bobby, Bobby deserves justice. We will be back again very soon with another unsolved missing persons story. And until then, stay safe and hug your loved ones.